Hello, you're listening to An Artist's Happy Hour, a new podcast produced by the AT&T Performing Arts Center. I'm your host, Matt Lyle. I'll be spending an hour with a different artist every week and digging into what makes them tick as artists and people. The podcast is called An Artist's Happy Hour because I've been social distancing for a month now and I miss happy hours. So I'll be enjoying a cocktail occasionally during these chats. You may hear the ice clink in the background. In this episode, I called playwright and performer Janielle Kastner. Recently, Janielle and her co-writer Brigham Mosley premiered Playwrights in the Newsroom in the AT&T Performing Arts Center's Elevator Project. Her new play Sweet Pea will have its world premiere at Second Thought Theater in July of 2020, and her meta-narrative podcast Untitled Dad Project was recently named number 1 on IndieWire's top 50 list of best podcasts of 2019. That sounds good. Anyway, without further ado, here's Janielle Kastner. Hello, Janielle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you in quarantine?
We're quarantining quite well, actually. I'm a little bored with it. We locked up at March 14th, though of course I've been to the grocery store a few times, but what about you? How are you doing?
I'm good. I was told this week that we're on week 4, me and my roommates, but I don't experience weeks anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the time is moving very differently than it did before.
Although I'm trying to do weekends. That's actually not true. I'm trying to do weekends. I'm actually trying to make Saturdays and Sundays feel differently. Like I'll do something like more fun for dinner. I'll like put on makeup and like use my actual clothes or like sleep in later. I'm trying to actually make my weekends a weekend.
Yeah. I have the wife and the kid, and my wife and I are working from home every day. And she and the first grader is doing school from home, of course. So the weekend still kind of feels like the weekend a little bit. You know, we spend all day outside if the weather permits. But yeah, the days certainly move differently. But I'm glad you're well. We are too. And I'm excited to talk to you about writing and art and all of those things.
Yeah. How much of this project is because you're bored?
Maybe 18%.
18. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't the calculations are rough, but I'll let you know as soon as I've extrapolated it exactly. But yeah. So I first knew you wrote things, and before I knew you, I saw Ophelia Underwater, which was a one-woman show that you were not in, but you wrote in. Remind me the year of that. 2000.
Oh God, I think 2014 or 15. Okay. Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, and that was great. And I was like, oh, Janielle. And then I saw you acting in a play, and I put those two things together, and you've sort of been in my consciousness ever since. So Ophelia Underwater, that was not the first thing you ever wrote, right? Was it the first produced thing? Where was that in your timeline?
It was the first play that ever like got up on its feet that I ever wrote. So I came into acting school thinking I was going to be an actor. And then I hated all the monologues for young women. I think I also just like didn't really know how to find contemporary plays. I was a pretty like green young person who liked doing theater in high school. Like I wasn't like as nearly as educated as a lot of the theater kids I see now going off to acting school. And so I was just like in the library, I think sort of like in the section of plays that were like written in the 80s, I guess, or the 90s. And all the monologues I could find for like young women that I could believably perform were like breakup monologues. Like just sort of like a woman like reading her ex-boyfriend the riot act about like and like taking a morally superior high ground of like, and that's why you shouldn't have been the way you were and you need to grow up, John, and like storm out, you know? Yeah. It's just so boring. Or it was like traumatic abortion monologues. That was kind of all I could find for like someone who's like 18 or 19 to believably play. Yeah. And so I started writing my own monologues. And then I wrote a one-woman show that I guess that's the first thing I actually wrote and performed. I guess that is. It was just a series of vignettes called Girl and Other Beautiful Works of Fiction. Girls and Other Beautiful Works of fiction. It was just like 7 or 8 different kinds of young women making all different kinds of choices. Some of them surreal, some of them very literal and naturalistic. And I did that as a one-woman show with my friend Anisha Katharkar. And then
where was this?
All at SMU, student theater.
Okay.
And then I got to a point where I was writing characters or writing scenes or writing moments that needed an actor who was better than me to perform them. Like, it was like I could actually like feel my writing outpacing my acting. Like, I was just getting more sophisticated, more complicated. I was like breaking open things that needed more than just me to accomplish. And that's when I started writing for other people. And we have this like festival at the end of the year for seniors called New Visions, New Voices at SMU in the Meadow School of the Arts. And so I wrote a play for that. And it was the single most terrifying experience of my life, sitting there in the dark before my first play was ever going to just be read in front of like my peers and people. And I cared so much more in that moment than I've ever cared about any opening night of any play I've ever acted in.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Because writing was, I think it's how I realized writing was my thing. Like, it felt like life or death. Like, because what I was trying to communicate in the play actually felt quite important to me. It was like, it was about loneliness and connection, and it was about older folks in an assisted living home, and like younger juvenile delinquents, and like feeling very quite thrown away by culture and society, and trying to find each other and find a reason to want to keep living. And the idea felt so like sophisticated and complicated to me, which is why I was writing into it. There was something there, like a nut I needed to crack, and I just realized I'm gonna find out if I did this in front of everybody else.
Yeah. There's a vulnerable thing to writing in that I find the fear comes from, hey, I'm putting my brain on a piece of paper and then having it being interpreted in a way that I can't fully control, and then putting it in front of a bunch of friends and strangers, and so here I am, everybody. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm funny? What do you think about me? So there's a lot of fear, and I think the control thing of it for me is a lot of it. It's like, I cannot control how you are going to perceive this or interpret this. But yeah,
I think I feel that way. I do feel that way, but there's some sort of thing I've learned over the past year, which is that I'm incredibly ambitious about the work, less ambitious about the things that would be really beneficial for me to be ambitious about, like getting certain residencies or getting certain amounts of money or getting certain size audiences. Like that'd be a really useful ambition. It would mean that I would get a lot better at like meeting application deadlines and putting myself out there more. But I find like my ambition is like in the depth of the work. And so usually there's like some idea I want to accomplish with the play or the project, whatever it is. And I cannot rest until I feel like I've actually done that thing. And I hate that it eats me alive if I feel like I'm so close to actually accomplishing the thing, but I'm not quite accomplishing the thing.
Yeah.
Or the voices haven't found the thing that I'm trying to accomplish. Like, that sort of like discontentment was like a sign that this was maybe my calling, in a way that like when I was acting, it was like, yeah, we got close to the thing, or like the play was kind of good or pretty good or like really good, and I don't exactly know why. And I could live with there was a margin of like, I don't know, not quite doing the thing that I can live with as an actor that I can't as a writer. And that feels like a sign, I think.
Yeah. So when you get ideas, where do you generally get them from? And how do you know that idea is the idea that you're going to sit down and write for the next few months of your life?
Usually what it feels like is like some sort of energetic algorithm like hits my body. Like I'll notice some sort of power differential or power imbalance, or I'll feel a power imbalance with somebody else, or like I'll notice something happening in my life that feels like, oh, that person wants something and that person can give it to them, but isn't going to. Like, it's something like that, like a power differential, or like two needs hitting each other. That shows up. Like, I'll feel it intuitively, or I'll notice it. Go ahead.
So it's generally like a personal observation taken from your life is so far for you? Is that what you're saying?
It's like feeling. It's like a feeling. Like
Mhm.
I'll be noticing a feeling that feels quite odd, or feels quite relevant for some reason, or I'll notice, or I'll start like intuitively feeling. I tend to take on the feelings of others. I don't. Empath is too far. Empath implies like some sort of like moral goodness. It's more just like I'll get secondhand embarrassed if I notice somebody else like trying to return something at Target and making a fool of themselves, and like I can hear it, and I'm like I start blushing. So
That
it's
sounds
less
like a
like,
good play.
yeah, and so I'll
Yeah.
I'll just sort of feel someone a sadness. Usually it's a sadness or a loneliness I've noticed in the past couple years. I'll just notice a sadness or loneliness somewhere in the world, and I'll that feeling will sort of stick with me and I can't get it out of my head. And so I write into the feeling. And so the characters that I write into that feeling can be wildly different than whatever I noticed or wherever I picked it up from. But yeah, that's usually where it comes from. And my worst plays come from like a lofty idea or something that I wanted to accomplish that feels quite clever, but is sort of a large idea that you would then fill the like a large circle of an idea that you then need to fill the play in
Hmm.
the middle of it, color in the play around
Yeah.
your large idea of a circle you've drawn. Those are my
Uh-huh.
worst. Those are my worst plays and ideas.
Yeah. Do you
Uh,
have any of those stuck in a drawer somewhere?
yeah. Oh,
Anything you
yeah.
finished that you put away?
God. I haven't finished as much as I'd like to. I think that's why I'm like I think one of like the happier playwrights because I don't have like something sitting in my drawer that I really want someone to produce. Like I'm not like angry at anyone for not doing my plays. Everything that
Yeah.
I've like finished and I think is good has found its way into someone's hands. It just
Yeah.
takes me a couple years. One that comes to mind is my play Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames, which you saw a reading of.
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah. So that was the first time I ever learned that theaters will invite you for like a developmental opportunity. But
Uh-huh.
like at the end, if they're gonna invite a bunch of people to see it, like you actually probably shouldn't just break open your play.
Uh-huh.
Like you should probably break it open like a little bit in a couple places and then make sure you have time to clean it up and fix it before you
Break
show it to a bunch of people.
Yeah, break it up privately with just some folks
Yeah.
hired to break it up with you. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, I didn't really
Yeah.
know that you should like really evaluate like developmental doesn't always just mean like do whatever would be most useful for you as a playwright and the audience be down because it like led to me like writing for an already long play. I like cut 2 scenes and then wrote like 5 more scenes because I've always wondered what would happen if I like messed with these 5 different points and made 5 new
Sure.
things happen. And it
Hmm.
led to like a 3.5 hour long play
Yeah,
reading.
right, right. I do recall, so I can tell you, I recall, first of all, I recall it being interesting and fun and funny in places and good characters and honest and true and all of those things. But I do remember that the first act might have been a little long, a
It was
little long.
and I knew it was long. I just like I guess it just never occurred to me that like when you just put it in front of people and you don't like caveat it a lot, they
Uh,
think that this is what you think your play is.
sure. Yeah.
No, no, I know this isn't my play. Like I want to hear all these things with 5 new scenes and then I can
Yeah.
figure out what to cut.
And then you
Um
put it in front of somebody's subscriber base, and they're like, "Man, this
yes,
first act is 2 hours long. You don't
yes,
want
it's
to." Yeah,
awful. Like I guess I should think more of some readings I should think more of as like auditions to be in
sure,
a theater
sure. Yeah, there
season.
is a difference. That's a good
There
point.
is.
And not everybody does new play the same way. And like what I was saying, the private version of a new play situation is probably the most the most useful for you
Mhm.
as an artist. But if they're going to start putting it in front of strangers, you might want to think about it as a finished product in some way,
Yeah,
you know.
it's some kind of
Okay.
audition. It's some sort
Yeah,
of yeah. I didn't know that. So what I learned from that now is to be sort of like brutally honest and ask a lot of really honest questions with people who run theaters when I'm invited into their space, which is like, okay, so tell me like why you invited me here. Like why
right.
why
Yeah,
are people going to be watching this? Oh, that's why like cuz you want them to know my work and be delighted by me. Great. I will approach this with that in mind as opposed to you know,
right.
um, trying my big experimental thing now, or oh, this really is just for me, and I don't have to invite anyone at the end. Okay, I'm gonna do things differently. Like I've become sort of like much more of a straight shooter in these meetings, going as far as like when I had some of my early commission meetings at DTC, because that's my first big play commission ever. I was like, okay, so how does a playwright successfully do a commission? Like how will you know that this is going well, and how will you know that I am like off track? Right, because like I just have no idea, as opposed to trying to like guess or like perform against a rubric that is maybe imaginary in my own mind. I just started asking people what this is for, why I'm here, and what they want from me, and then I can be the most authentic, genuine self.
What did you find to be the bullseye that you were aiming at during your DTC commission?
The lovely piece of information I didn't have was like, you have to write the play that you're most excited about, not the play that you think we'll be most excited about. Because I was like, really, like you say that, but like, do you really actually want me? Like, and it's like, no, like actually, like you have to be crazy about this play. Like you have to love it, and that's what this is for. That's what this commission is for. Maybe not every commission's like that. I don't know. You'd know more than I. You've had so much more exposure to like theater.
Thousands, yeah.
Thousands, but
no, just 2 or 3. But yeah, and they're all different. And I feel very strongly about what you said about not knowing what the goal was and feeling a little adrift during a commission. And and I certainly, because I did one at the theater center too. They were generous enough, and I was sort of adrift during that period, and I didn't ask the questions because I didn't know. It was like, okay, well, you give me money to write a play. Who am I writing this for? And that's a good question for any writer: is who are you writing for?
Yeah.
This play, are you writing for an audience, a particular audience? Are you writing for yourself? Are you writing for the artistic director? And I found myself during that entire period not knowing necessarily for the first 4 months, like, who am I writing this for? Am I trying to write for this artistic director who has all these expectations, and trying to get things funded nationally? Is this going to get an NEA grant or a New Works? Is this an important enough story to get a New Works grant, or is it just entertaining this particular audience? And I never quite knew. And I doubled down and just went for what I was excited about and thought was fun and unique, and I was interested in the moment. It never got produced, or it got produced by a different theater, but not them. So maybe I missed the mark a little bit, but it turned out pretty fun otherwise.
I think how that was difficult for you, not knowing, not feeling a sense of connection to who this is for, because you're such an intentional writer. Like you're someone who I feel like if I had like the resources and I was in charge of like audiences or theaters, I know I could like deploy you, right? Do you know what I mean? Because you're so intentional. Like you can actually like plot out a story or get thrown. Like I remember when I brought you in for the teen playwriting class I was teaching, and like you represented a playwriting perspective as somebody who can like actually plot out and who characters are and where they might be going, but even before you have written a scene. And I think that's just not at all how I work. And so I could see how having an end goal would be like just an incredibly powerful piece of information to give you, because you could write towards that, as opposed to someone else who just has to like write whatever they're writing.
Yeah. What you feeling? Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to a question about you. What is your process? Because we discovered in that class how different our process is. I tell a story over and over and over again, like storytelling, like I'm telling my wife or my best friend who I talk to on the phone about writing the story again and again and again until I have basically a plot. And then I flesh it out a little bit, and then I discover I don't know as much about that story as I thought I did, and I get stuck, and then I keep telling it out loud to these people that will listen and add little pieces, and until I fully know what I'm going to write, and only then can I actually sit down and write. So but you and many other people I've talked to, I've talked to Jonathan Norton about this, and Blake Hackler, and people who write successfully over and over again, and they don't do it that way. So and I feel like you have a different tact from all of us. But can you describe your process? You've got your idea, your feeling that you want to write towards. How does the whole thing work, and what's the timeline for it, and when do you write? I'd like to hear the whole thing.
Wow. I love this. This is like this sort of minutia is the stuff that I love. I want to know what everyone's desk looks like and like when they sit at it, etc.
Hmm?
Yeah, so I can't talk about it at all. That's really funny that you break your story open by telling it to others. But you're an entertainer. Like you're a true like entertainer in that way, I think. I'm telling you a lot of things about yourself. I
Sure.
hope you think some of them are
No,
true and
I
find them
appreciate.
flattering. I think they're great.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all wrong, but that's okay. This is not about me. No, I'm kidding.
this is my perception of
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I definitely consider the audience from the beginning, but and
yeah.
that shows. But yeah. So what do you do?
Oh, sorry. When I said entertainer, I didn't mean like I meant like you like perform. Like I could see like you do like the improv stuff and stuff. So like you just are comfortable talking to people. I think about
Yeah.
ideas. I can't talk because I feel this like once I have the idea, I have this sort of there's like an energy that I'm like writing into or like a feeling I'm writing into. And if I start talking about it to other people, all of the momentum or the energy inside the idea is like siphoned out. Like it's like a tremendous release. I give it to like whoever I'm talking to, and then I don't have it. And so I can't talk about an idea until basically the first draft is already written. And there's all
Okay.
kinds of weird things. It's like the muse, whatever the muse is, like my ability to write feels like kind of this like impetuous child, this inner child that I have to prove I will listen to and I will honor and I will make space for, or else it'll go away. So I have
Yeah.
to like do little things like not tell anyone what the idea is until we've broken it out. Like I've broken it out on the page and it's already out, and then I can like repeat or regurgitate the idea that I've already expressed. But I can't talk about it till I've expressed it.
Hmm.
And then the way I write is usually I do these things I call power hours, and they're my version of the Pomodoro method. Pomodoro method, is that what it's called?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not
It's
familiar. Tell me.
an Italian food. Pomodoro method or egg timer
I've e-
method or something like
yeah,
that.
I've eaten the pomodoro. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I
Uh-huh.
have two. I don't know what it is though, but I'm sure I've eaten it. And what I do is I set a timer for 1 hour. It started with 30 minutes, then I worked my way up to 45, and now it's an hour. For a while, it was an hour and a half. And all I have to do is write for that hour.
Hmm.
I can work on the play that I'm working on, or I can cheat on the play and just write in my notes section on my computer about like anything I want, but I just have to write and turn my phone off, turn everything off. And then the second the timer goes off at the end of that hour, I have to take my hands off of it, even if I'm like in the middle of a great sentence or in the middle of a juicy scene.
Huh.
And the reason I do it is because it's like a way of short circuiting this incredible gift I have for self-sabotage and these anxiety loops that I can get into, which is like, okay,
Uh-huh.
you're going to sit down and work on your play. And then like I'm distracted and I'm on the internet or whatever happens. And then I feel guilt and shame because I'm not working on my play. And then I say, okay, well, tomorrow, instead of for 2 hours, you'll work on your play for 8 hours. Like you'll make up for this time. And then tomorrow, the next day comes and like 8 hours feels like so much. There's no way I can accomplish that. So I feel like I'm failing again. And then I start bargaining for like what future me is going to do to alleviate the shame of current me and past me, which is now aggregating and accumulating and accruing interest. And it was just so awful. And so then setting a time and then having to take my hands away like
Uh-huh.
actually makes an hour just an hour. I've like removed mind tricks from myself by being so rigid with these
Yeah.
boundaries. There's no mind tricks, there's no games, there's no bargaining. I can decide I want to add another hour, in which case I re-up and I set another timer for an hour and
Uh-huh.
then I do it again. But that's it's like incremental and it's a way of just short circuiting all of the neuro pathways that I've established that connect writing to shame and writing to worthiness and
Huh.
etc. And so and the
Interesting.
idea, the part of the Pomodoro that I've stolen from is the idea that if you fail and you only get 45 minutes in and you get distracted, as opposed to bargaining and then saying, okay, well, I'll add 15 minutes tomorrow, you just say, great, I'm at 45 minutes. That's where my body is. Tomorrow, I set my timer for 45 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, and you use
Hmm.
like that sort of it's like a non-shamey way of working your way back up. Great. My body must be telling me 45 minutes is the amount that we can focus on this project. Let's do that tomorrow. And then maybe I'll find that I'm really ready to go back up to an hour, work my way back up. So
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. How often do you do that during a week? What's your weekly?
it depends. I'm coming out of a weird season where for the past like 6 years, I've had like multi-year long projects I've been working on intermittently. So I had Untitled Dad Project, which was a podcast I worked on for 5 years. That was like about myself, and it was very nonfiction and involved a lot of audio and a lot of interviewing people. And then it would involve a tremendous amount of writing and outlining. So I was kind of vacillating. I was working on that over the course of 5 years. And then also the Dallas Morning News Project, Playwrights and Newsroom, which was 2.5 years. And so it was like there'd be seasons where I was incredibly immersed in UDP, then I would take a step back, and then I would be like incredibly immersed for 6 weeks in Playwrights in the Newsroom and doing a bunch of heavy writing. And then there'd be a period of like 8 weeks where I needed to make money, and I was not really writing very much, but I was doing background research for those projects. So it's sort of seasonal, or has been seasonal for me for the past like 6 years. And now I can just, I guess, write a new play during a pandemic.
Hey.
I guess.
Yeah. So I write in a coffee shop or a bar or a not at home situation. So this has been actually a kind of a interesting situation for me. I used to write in the middle of the night. Like I would be trying to go to sleep and couldn't because any idea I could possibly have would come to me at 12:30 a.m.
So
and then I would just and then I would hop up and I would write 6 pages, before I was ready to go back to bed. It'd be 2 a.m. And now I'm up at 6 a.m. Every morning. Not now during the pandemic, we're sleeping in now, but I'm up and I'm getting a kid ready and going to work and coming home and having a little bit of time in the evening. And so I've gotten myself to do it out of the house. So I'm going to have to adjust because I've not been productive at all since we've been doing this.
Well, your body, like, I really believe that your body gets used to like, this is the space where we find flow. Like your body knows what it feels like.
Yeah. And I like people around too. I like noise.
Oh, you're so funny. I hate it.
Yeah.
I find people too interesting. They're so interesting to me that I have to be completely bored to create. I have to be no music playing, at my desk, hour set, no sounds, writing. Anything else, any other noise becomes too interesting to me. Busy
shop, people sitting next to me having an odd conversation that I'm hearing part of is a ideal working environment for me.
Lovely.
I find it interesting that would you sit at home just at a desk?
Yeah, I sit at home at my desk that now faces the window, which was really added so much to my quality of life, moving my desk to the window and like re-functioning my room.
It does for this my day job. Yeah, the window is an important piece of that, especially now.
And now it's so important because if I'm on so many Zoom calls that it has good lighting. I'm not backlit anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I write from boredom and loneliness. Like most of my writing has a lot to do with human connection, which probably all writing does, but it's like from a place of like, I'm lonely. I want to commune with these characters, or I want to connect with these characters, or I'm so my friend, I haven't been generative or creative or felt like a single creative impulse in terms of like writing this whole pandemic.
Yeah.
The past 4 weeks, I haven't felt a single generative impulse, which is surprising because usually when I'm like stuck at home, I do lots of, even if it's not playwriting, it's like I want to cut up pieces of colorful paper, or like I start accidentally drawing stick figure cartoons. Like just like creativity finds a way out, and I haven't felt that at all. And my friend who knows me pretty well was like, "Oh, you're not bored enough." And I was like, "Oh my God, like it's quiet for me." I'm an adult who lives with adults who are all working quietly from their rooms, but it's quiet, but I'm not bored. Like there's this low level of anxiety kind of permeating every corner of every location and every part of my day. And it's like a low hum that my body's processing. And so I'm like cooking and cleaning and trying to like make a home and like trying to stay safe and trying to be near people who I love to make sure they're okay. And even if I have a boring day or like a non-eventful day, like my animal body's not bored. It doesn't feel safe. And I think I have to feel bored in order to feel, I think I have to feel safe in order to feel bored, in order to
safe,
feel
right.
energetic.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all living through a little bit of like a slow adventure because
Yeah,
we don't know
yes.
what's next. Yeah.
And there's no like the natural way your body processes like trauma or whatever, like your fight or flight is like you see the tiger, you freak out, your heart rate accelerates, and then you have a period of running away from the tiger. So your body actually feels itself escaping in some way. And then eventually you make it back to like the fire with your other cavemen, whatever. And then you can eat and relax. And like we don't have that. There's just like kind of a sense of a tiger in the air always. And there's no run and there's no like restore. And so I felt quite stuck. Have you felt generative in this period?
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all. I've just finished a draft of a play to a point where I don't have my next idea. So, I'm sort of in that trough between and still working on the one I just finished. And I can go back through it and touch it a little bit and shape this or polish this or whatever. But I'm at that point where that is what it's going to be until I hear it out loud and do all of that stuff. So there's really nothing pushing me next. I'm co-writing something with a friend of mine that is like a TV type project, but
Oh, cool.
that's still early in the process and haven't quite gotten that into my daily thought process. And maybe because of the, like you're saying, the low hum existential dread of the moment, along with trying to figure out the new schedule and the new way life feels. And but yeah, nothing that really is eating at me right now, and certainly nothing pandemic related.
Oh God.
Yeah, everybody's asking, what are you going to write about this? What are you going to write about the pandemic? And I'm like, I have zero idea. And everybody I talk to has the exact same ideas about it and experiences and feelings. Well, I can't tell you anything new about it. Maybe a year from now, I'll have some idea about it. But right now, I'm just trying to figure out where to get the toilet paper,
My brilliant dramaturg friend Haley Nelson said right now is like asking everyone to write a play while one of the twin towers is falling down slowly. Like we don't know what happened. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what the full impact of this is, and we're all experiencing it. So it's not like some of us need to be informed about it that aren't. Like we all collectively have our eyes watching this. So like what is there to make? And yes, the all that said, I like specifically vowed that I wasn't going to write a pandemic play and I didn't need to create anything right now. I found this period actually really clarifying in regards to like, what do I actually need to survive? And it turns out I need like the people I love and I need food and I need like a place to rest. Like I actually don't need to write plays to survive.
Sure.
Which is like obvious, but like, I don't know, there's some narrative I told myself about my identity and my creative impulses that like make it seem so connected to my survival. And like Maslow's hierarchy of need just like kicked me in the ass. I was like, no, you need like shelter and you need rent and you need to eat. And like, that's what you need to survive. You like writing plays. Like they give you fulfillment and purpose, but like, anywho, I felt really like clarified about that. And I was like, I don't need to make anything during this period. And then I got a call about a project that was really, really exciting and energizing. And they were like, will you write a short play like for this moment that can be performed via Zoom? And I was like, oh, damn it. Okay.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So I actually wrote something that I am ultimately really proud of, but it's just incredibly different than everything else I've ever written and deals much more with the feeling of stuckness and existential dread and doesn't have a lot of people talking to each other because I just don't really know how to write people talking to each other right now. I feel sort of that feels kind of broken.
Well, that's too bad. Or maybe that's good. Maybe that's your new thing.
I think it's good for now. It feels authentic to now. It feels like that ambition that I have, my ambition for this was to like write something that actually felt kind of good right now, as opposed to trying to write what should feel really good right now. That's something that I always told my like the teen playwrights I taught, which is like instead of writing what you think should scare you, write what actually scares you. Instead of writing what you think you should want right now, write what you actually want right now, and then the example I would use in that class was like, right now I should care about global warming, but right now what I actually care about is like a risky text I sent to someone I like that they haven't responded to, and I'm wondering if they actually like me as much as I thought they liked me. And like that's what I actually care about, and so writing into that is probably going to be way scarier and more interesting and more useful to the world than than the should.
Yeah, just finding being honest tends to work.
Yes.
That's what I found. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. that one moral lesson that
that's
like
weird,
we
right?
all learned as children and then like unlearned out of our bodies at some point, that we're not supposed to be honest. We're supposed to be like facsimiles of like the smartest, best, most moral versions of ourselves.
Absolutely. I find it's weird. I find when I tell the truth to the people around me, they trust me and like me more. And when I tell the truth to audiences of people who don't even know me, they tend to enjoy it more and laugh more and all of those things. It works all the way down the line.
A funny thing happened when I put out my podcast, Untitled Dad Project, was that it deals with a lot of like really big stuff like grief and healing and fathers and what it is to create all this big stuff. And the feedback, like I got the most emails from people who felt the most profoundly understood and grateful for moments where I expressed something that I really didn't know. In sort of a vulnerable way. Like we're all supposed to kind of know like big things, like what we believe about God and what we believe about death, or like what we believe about like ultimately people are good at the end of the day, whatever. Just like all these big things that I feel like I'm supposed to know whenever I could express like I actually don't know this fundamental thing about being a human or who I am or what's true about the world. That's the stuff that I heard the most from people. Like those were their mantras, like those were their safe havens, were my the places where I was like really honest about really not knowing. And like I heard a lot of people who were like, I thought I was the only one who just like didn't know who like parts of her family and was too afraid to ask. And I was like, yeah, you're not. I was like, welcome. We're like, welcome to like us who are like half baked and don't actually know things that we think we should know, but are pretending like we do.
Do you ever discover things about yourself in that way while you're writing something, where you have an aha moment about, oh, this is how I actually feel about the world or myself or something?
Yeah. Yes. In like a faceted way. Like I'll be like, oh, wow. Like this one person has like an incredible amount of clarity about this thing that feels quite scary for me to say out loud. And it's like 1/2 of how I feel about this topic, or it's like 1/8 of how I feel about this topic. Like anyone who has clarity about something. I have so little clarity about things. Any character that has like tremendous clarity about something is usually like one of the 4 voices in my head. 1 second, I'm so sorry. The dogs are coming into my room.
Oh, that's good. Put them on.
Yeah. God, if they had thumbs, man, they would run this quarantine. That's the only thing keeping them from running our household right now. Do you have that? Do you have moments where you feel like you know something the character says it?
I certainly have. Yeah. And usually mine comes after the fact, like while I'm watching it during, like there's like a production and I'm realizing exactly how close that is to the way I feel or don't feel and how I wrote it from the opposite of my perspective for this character, you know?
I love
which
that.
Is an interesting writer-character relationship is having characters say quite the opposite of what you feel about something. Or I know I've had characters give like, and here's how you fix this situation. Here's the solution to the situation, which is only, which is 90% not how I feel about what is the solution of the situation. And then watching it later, realizing that 1/3 of the audience feels like that is the solution that is being presented, and then 2/3 of it realize what's happening, and character and writer relationship is always fascinating to me. Like, which one is me? How much is me? Are they all me? Even the ones that are based on real people are some percentage me.
You're making me think what this psychotherapist on the radio once said. So, really
Frasier
trustworthy. Yeah, Frasier Crane.
Yeah.
But they were saying that you are all of the characters in your dream.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you have a nightmare and like the monster's chasing you and like the witch is inviting you into her lair or whatever, like you are you and you're also the monster and you're also the witch because you generated all three of them in
Mm-hmm.
your brain. Like so they can only do what you're asking them to do, even though it feels out of your control. And I found that really useful when I think about like any of my recurring nightmares because I always have like really, really, really on the nose psychological thrillers. Like my
Mm-hmm.
dreams are so boring. They're just like, yeah, they're really easy to interpret. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I find that so useful to think about like how they're each of them are me, even when they're in conflict, because they have to be, because they came out of my brain. And same with like the plays, like just you're saying, every single one of them has some of me in them.
Yeah. Yeah. What they
I just
feel and
I just don't understand how people just know what they think about things or just know how they feel about things.
Mhm.
Like people just like give their opinion on Facebook about like what they think is good and what they think is bad and who they think is right and who they think is dumb.
Uh-huh.
And I so baffling. I just don't know how you just like know how you feel 100% or just like think you're right about things. I just
Right.
can't I just can't relate and I don't understand and it seems like such a like a like a much more restful way for your brain to work. And I just sort of feel like I can see all ways you could feel about one thing or
Yeah.
I just can't.
What if I was born someplace else in a totally different
Yes,
situation? I understand how they feel about it.
yes,
Understand
like
from their outside influences how I could have come to those same conclusions. So I guess I can't hold that against them. Yeah.
yes, or like any opinion about reality TV. I'm just like until you've been had a camera on you all the time, like we're all hideous, and we all like
Uh-huh.
are so hypocritical, and we so betray our own morals all the time. We just don't have anyone making a scene out of us, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just tend to think that I'm capable of quite anything that anyone awful has done. If I was in the same
Uh-huh.
position, I think I'm capable of it. Whether I would do it, I don't know, but I don't know. I just it's
Yeah.
exhausting up here in my brain.
Yeah. You feel like a hypocrite taking a stand against anything. Yeah. If
Yeah,
that's the case, you feel like
or people
you're capable of that as well in some other situation. Yeah.
or people just like see a movie or see a play. This happens to me all the time when I see plays. We just like walk back to our cars and people just know if they think the play was good or bad with like a capital G or a capital B. And like I've seen a couple plays that have been like that was bad and I feel it in my body and I want to scream about it. But that's been like I'm talking like 2 out of like however many hundred plays I've seen. Like like how do you just know how you feel about something that you just experienced?
Yeah. 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 I have very similar feelings, and that um, blends over into collaborating with people as well. Have you ever
Mm,
had people that you collaborate with who have such a quick and such a strong feeling about it, while I need a few days to sleep on something and to think about it and consider all the different sides of it. But if somebody is really quickly giving a black and white opinion about something, I find it very difficult to combat that in the moment, because I'm like, I don't know. I won't know until Tuesday. I'll let you know if you're right or wrong next Tuesday. Uh, does that come out the way that you're describing? That seems like maybe collaborating falls in a similar vein, but maybe not. What do you think about that?
you just called like BS on everything I just said because I'm now like flashing to scenes with me and Brigham working on Playwrights in the Newsroom, and I
Hmm.
was like incredibly instinctual and incredibly connected to my gut and like because when I'm making a play, it sort of feels like I'm at war, like we're in a battle, and like that's how high the
Hmm.
stakes are, which makes me a
Oh,
delightfully intense
we have
collaborator.
to act now. Yes.
Yes, and it feels like because like the plays feel so important to me that like like it feels like sending my troops into war and I don't want to send them like over the bridge if they're going to be slaughtered. So I'm like making these like instinctual like how do we move forward decisions, especially like when you enter production mode and it's like I don't like this poster. I have to tell you sooner rather than later and give you like 3 reasons why, so you can make a new draft. Like I'm now like flashing to those moments where I was like I mean, adrenaline was coursing through my body because there was like an activity at hand. And so when like there's an activity at hand, like a battle being fought, like then I have like the perfect clarity to like make a series of decisions incredibly quickly. And Brigham, I was operating from my brain, making these choices with like adrenaline pumping through up my central nervous system. And Brigham was like operating from his gut. So I was like the brain and he was the gut. And so from his gut, he could like be like, I don't know. I can't feel it in my gut. I need more time. And so he was that half of the equation. So I guess what you're teaching me about myself, Matt, is that when it comes to like an activity at hand or like there's something to be done, I can be incredibly quick and decisive. But when it comes to like a reflective opinion about something like art or the nature of what humanity is, which is how I feel when I watch reality TV. That's where I don't feel like I can just have an opinion easily.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, huh. Well, you're welcome for that.
Yeah, thanks for that clarity.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. Yeah, I feel that I should consider every side of something when I'm making it, which makes for sometimes a slow burn, but there's sort of a science to everything. There's physics to the way stage works. There's a bit of a science to the way audiences think and the way every puzzle piece fits together. And so I don't know all the ways that those puzzle pieces fit together until I've considered all the different moves that could be made. So that's sort of where mine comes from while creating. And you've taught me that about myself.
Wow, look at that.
You've made me think about it. Yeah. Instead of just stumbling blindly through, feeling like I make decisions slowly compared to so-and-so. I have 2 more questions for you before we let you go. This has been great, by the way. Very theater specific questions.
Great.
I like to ask this one. What do you love about the theater?
I love that the theater is such a bad idea. It's so impractical and it's such an inefficient use of resources. And like now in this moment of social distancing more than ever, like
it's stark.
It's really showing me like what a true luxury that is. Like how extravagant to make something, like to ask someone to build a reality, like physically with like wood, like to build a living room that will just be torn down in like 2 to 6 weeks. So we can go and sit in and look at that living room instead of our own and like pay attention to it. And like everyone has to show up, like fight traffic to get there every single night to do it. You can't do it if one person's out.
Yeah.
And make this experience that like feels sublime in some way, and that like intangible way that like our energies just like connect. And some nights it's really good and some nights it doesn't feel that good. And like all the same words were said in the same order. Like it's just such an like truly inefficient use of resources. And like watching Zoom versions of Zoom readings of plays, which are like a much more efficient use of resources. It's just like they don't do it the same way.
No.
And so it's really putting in stark contrast, like stark relief, like what I love about this thing, which is like, it's just so sublime and extravagant. And like, I like making bite-sized versions of that, like Brigham and I, and like a lot of different collaborators have made like stuff at the backyard of the Wild Detectives, which is like live and everyone has to show up, and like, we'll create something for you using like shapes and words and sounds and colors and actions and gestures. And like, if you leave to go to the bathroom, like you'll miss it. Like that's so dumb. That's so inefficient. And I love that. And and so we can do like bite-sized versions of it. Like, so from that, the Wild Detectives up to like Broadway, it's so luxurious. It's like, I can't wait to do it again. Like I really can't wait.
Yeah, me too. There's a power of everybody getting together for sure. Audience, actor, that we're certainly missing right now. And
I don't know why. Like it's like the same like energetic relationship to like if I'm like at a party and my crush walks in, like I can tell where they are in the room, even if they aren't like actually in my peripheral vision, in just like some like animal central nervous system energetic way. And like that's the thing that we tap into when we're all together in a room, like really vibing with a story that's being performed for us. And I just don't know how I don't know how to replicate it. I don't know what it is, and I love that. It's a mystery.
Great. Now, what would you change about the theater if you could?
Okay, I've actually thought about this quite a bit.
If you had the power.
okay, I've thought about this quite a bit. The thing I would change about the theater. So like we were saying, I think it is nuts that like the play ends and like Romeo and Juliet have just like killed themselves and the friar comes out and is like, never ever will we ever tell the tale of Romeo and his Juliet. And it's like so sad and we're all crying. And then like instantly the lights go down and the lights come back up right away and we all have to clap and someone can just turn to me and be like, what do you think of the play?
Mhm.
Like that's too soon. Like if the ending of a play is any good, like it's done something to my body. So I propose that the theater needs to roll credits at the end. Like
Okay.
just like a projector somewhere or something that we can all look at and then we can like actually really appreciate like, oh, that's who did costume design. Like they did a great job. Or like just give me a second in the dark to just feel what just happened to me. And you can start clapping already. Like if it's a really good show, like that's fine. I just need like a minute to like really feel what I felt.
Huh.
Like did you see Empathotrax at Second Thought?
I did not.
Oh,
I'm
it was
sorry to
gorgeous.
say. Yeah.
Carson McCain directed it. He was like one of my favorite directors in the world. It's a really good play, and at the end, it is a visceral, magical gut punch that reaches up inside you and like squeezes the part of you that's like a child who fundamentally believes they will always be rejected by those they love.
Yeah.
Like it's so beautiful and devastating in the last 3 minutes. And I was just destroyed. And so I had to like look at my friend, and the second the lights came up, we had to like leave immediately and then go cry in the car because it was just so profound. I needed like a solid 5 minutes to process it. If there were credits,
yeah, I could have figured that out.
Yeah, I could have just cried during the credits. So
yeah.
So Kings of Theater, hit me up. Let's just all change that.
Yeah. So would you have the credits instead of the playbill?
Ooh, well, no, it's sort of fun to have something to hold and take a picture of. I like the I like that trend. I think it's so great. Like everyone should feel FOMO on Instagram for not having seen something, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I like seeing everyone's hands holding a program.
Yeah. All right. Well, Janielle, I think we're at almost an hour, so it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Do you have any parting shots or anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
I don't think you have to write a play right now.
All right. Well, good. I won't.
If you can just to like be like, now I'm gonna, as a form of rebellion. So like I offer you something to rebel against if that gets you going creatively and generatively.
Sure.
But if you need permission from somebody who's outside of
you know what?
your household.
Screw you. I'm writing a play. Just good night. All right. Well, it's already been written. Unfortunately. But what if I were to right now write King Lear?
How incredible would that be? What if he was like,
and King Lear had not existed to this point, and yet I sat and wrote King Lear? I'm going to argue that nobody would produce it.
I was gonna say, Matt, I love
everybody's like, Matt, this is way long and kind of weird. Why are you writing? Why are you writing in verse?
Hot take. I don't think we would like what Shakespeare would write right now if he wrote it right now. Like hot take.
It would be too weird. This
Malcolm
is not
Gladwell,
commercial.
He was born the right time, at the right age, and got his 10,000 hours like at the perfect time for what he wanted to do. Yeah, I don't think your King Lear would be produced.
You mean you want us to pay you royalties? You want 8% of the gross to produce this? And not saying that it's not the most brilliant thing ever written. I'm just saying our tastes right now it's a good thing he wrote it when he wrote it, or he wouldn't be. God.
That Billy Shakes, he really worked the system.
That may be a stupid take when I look back on it, but sometimes I felt that after watching Our Town, because Our Town I feel like is so brilliant and such a moment in time, just a photograph of a moment in time, and connects and is so good, and you can't deny how good it is. But I don't know that if some contemporary writer to write it right now, it would be looked at as quaint or something, instead of like this brilliant piece of art that it is. I don't know, but maybe that's a bad take. I don't know.
No, God bless, because maybe one of our plays that's doing like okay right now, in 30 years, it'll be like, wow, like right in the like coming out of the aughts into the 20s, like really a snapshot slice,
really spoke to that moment. Who knows? All right. Well, Janielle, you have a great rest of your Friday, and and weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, talk soon, Matt. Take care.
Bye.